So speaking a little bit about my past, I think I have to mention that I was incarcerated in 2002, and I didn't change my life until 2010. And so from the age of 15 on, I was a gang member, I was a drug addict, and I was a criminal. Um, and I embraced everything negative that came with it. I was a deceiver, I was a liar, and everything else. Um, Up until 2010, I didn't have any hope. I entered the system really with this really strong belief that I wasn't going to get out. I had an extended term, and so immediately, in order to cope with that, I began to make decisions based on what was going to help me in the immediate future. And then I didn't allow myself to think about consequences because I sort of convinced myself that I didn't care about the consequences. And I continued to live my life like that. And I was at the mercy of other people's opinion of me because of that. That didn't really allow me to have any self esteem because I stopped caring about myself. And I became very rebellious because I blamed the system. I blamed anybody in authority. And that led to a destructive lifestyle. I committed crimes while I was in prison. I continued my behavior. My incarceration didn't deter me. It fueled all these beliefs I just talked about, and all these thoughts. Um, and I had no hope. I really did not think I was going to get out of prison, and I was only really hopeful for maybe a career as a prisoner, which is the only thing that I saw. Success in prison was my goal. Uh, that included having whatever power I thought I could have in there. And I garnered it through my willingness to be violent because, again, I didn't care about myself, much less about other people. Letting go of the friendships, letting go of those ties that come with those friendships, because although we were destructive, we were gang members and drug addicts and all these other things, these bonds did exist for me. But I understood that in order to change my life and adopt these tools that were being given to me and I was learning, one of them was the letting go of. And letting that go in its entirety and saying, you know what, I can't continue to be your friend. Whether the person was actively in my life or not, I had to make that decision. And for me, that was one of the harder things to let go of, because, as I said, there were real bonds there that were created in this during this destruction, during this mayhem, and I had to learn to say it's okay to do that. It's okay, but it's a lot harder to do than to say. In 2015, I was introduced to the GOGI program via the leadership. I forgot what it was called, but it was a leadership program where GOGI was had this grant. This was on a high security yard where I had decided to change my life about a year before. Um, I was invited through one of my friends, and it had been my first experience with sort of the community coming from outside of prison into prison. And it's where I met Coach Taylor, where she had committed to basically visit us every week in order to hold us accountable and look at our progress. But not only that, she actually assigned like these assignments to us and gave us these leadership positions. I had never experienced any of that. I began to see things a little differently, where myself and my friends had been focused on creating change in a negative way, and here was Coach Taylor paying attention to everything we said and saying, "Hey, look, this is what you have the opportunity to create on your yard today, right now, with these tools." So that was really refreshing. It was scary, but I went along with it because I really love the fact that somebody cared enough to show up, and I held on to that with all my might, because what that did was give me hope. It gave me hope for my own future, because I was already tired of the stuff that I was doing. I was already tired of being treated a certain way, and I was already tired of sort of being the reason why people treated me like that. I was the reason. I was giving people the reason to treat me like that. And those are the tools that really allowed me to move on in my recovery, to reach out to other people, to help other people out and to implement the things I needed to implement in my life. As a direct result of that beginning for me, as a direct result of Coach Taylor's empathy and her dedication to the men in there, I had the opportunity to, or I was blessed to gain my freedom through the BPH process. Uh, I had enough clean time to go to the board and say, I have been working on myself. And this is how it started for me. If it weren't for GOGI, I wouldn't have that story, or I would have come across that story in a different manner and in a much later time. And I had it when I needed it, when it was, I was at my toughest time in prison for me. When I wanted to change and the culture just wasn't there. I had no support from anybody else. And that was created for me directly from GOGI. I've come to understand that it started as a kid for me. I never really had any self-esteem growing up. And I hung out with a lot of people that didn't have self-esteem. And I adopted these beliefs and these ideas from other people immediately because whatever self-esteem I had came from their opinion of me. And so I latched onto that. Just like anybody I was around, girls and women, if even if it took manipulation, if I thought that I was admired at any level, even if it was for my destructive behavior, I latched onto that. And that's where my self-esteem came from. You know, I was never really supported growing up by my parents emotionally, or I was never told that I was good at anything. And I never really tried to be good at anything except for being a criminal. That's where the praise came from. That's where people encouraged me to continue doing the behavior that I was doing. And I was willing from the very beginning to sort of take a hit for whoever I was hanging out with. If I was hanging out with you and you're doing criminal behavior and we get caught and you want to get away with it, I'll take the rap from you, man, because I want you to be cool with me. I want that admiration. I want that acceptance. Even after garnering this acceptance, I wanted to maintain it. I didn't want to lose it. And in order for all those things to come into play, I had to have very low self-esteem. Otherwise, I would have said, you're crazy. I'm not going to do this for you. I'm not going to do this with you. Or I'm not going to be around you. And I became accustomed to that, to living like that early on, very early on, from my brothers, my parents, and those people that I hung around with. And I never really understood what self-esteem was and how to get it. And I settled really for whatever my fellow gang members would give me. And I didn't understand that I was settling. I just understood that there is something there. And there's this group of kids in the beginning. There's this group of kids that are willing to put their lives on the line for me, no matter what. And they're not telling me I'm no good. They're actually encouraging me to do the things that I'm already doing. And the only thing that these guys wanted in return was the very same. And I was like, I can do that. I will put my life on the line for you if you're willing to do it for me. And I didn't have any sense of that growing up with anybody else in my life. So that sense of family and loyalty, and then you also have that aspect of honor, right? That is very twisted, but it was very real for me at that time. The support was very real. And as soon as I discovered it, again, I latched onto it. The thing that really got me going from GOGI was that it was a community. Off the top, the vocabulary that was being used was so foreign to me, but without realizing it's something that I really wanted and I needed in my life. It was family. So we are a GOGI family. And it was the empathy that was extended in saying, look, we have people that are going to help you out. Here's the address. Here's a flyer. Here's a curriculum. As soon as you finish this curriculum, you send it in, or we'll come and pick it up, and then we'll move you on to your next step. So the support aspect of GOGI is what really got me into it, really got my attention. I am in a transition home. So life is wonderful for me. What happens is that in this transition home, I'm not allowed the liberty to leave currently because of COVID. This is a facility, but I have had the opportunity to create friendships and become a part of the community and organizations via technology. Um, so I am seeking employment. I am going to my groups, all the groups that I'm able to go to via Zoom. And beyond that, I really don't have a plan. Again, because of the variables. I would love to have a career that involves doing what I love and having the opportunity to help other people out. Uh, I think those things require a lot of empathy. So going back to prisons and bringing this factor of hope, like GOGI has done it for us. Um, right before I left prison, GOGI showed up with a gentleman named Johnny. And Johnny had a story that was very similar to mine. And that for me was really awesome. It was very encouraging. So for me, part of my career would include either returning back to prison physically or being able to be available to people who are in prison that need that hope of a better future.